Hare Krishna Gurus. Welcome back to our Hare Acharya series. And this is the last lesson of what I call Avideya, deepening our commitment to Srila Prabhupada's mission. And here we are, finding our mission in his mission. So let's all say, Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Muktate Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasthayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shakane Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prabhupada once again at the manor, looking very meditative. As Arjuna became confused about his duty on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, sooner or later we all become confused on the battlefield of life. Hence, the Bhagavad Gita's timeless appeal. To find our mission in Srila Prabhupada's mission, let's first look at the challenge of knowing who we are and what our duty is. Quote, "Know thyself," the philosopher Socrates admonished his students, for, quote, "the unexamined life is not worth living." And who am I? Quote, "Immortal soul," Socrates asserted. When the Athenian court sentenced him to death for disrespecting the gods, the sophists and the epicures of ancient Greece, Socrates was unafraid. There's this famous painting on the left, The Death of Socrates. "How shall we bury you?" a cheerful friend asked. "Any way you like," Socrates replied. "That is, if you can catch me, and I don't slip through your fingers." Srila Prabhupada appreciated that Socrates was fearless in the face of death because he knew he was imperishable spirit, not the perishable body. Nearly 2 millennia later, so that was around 400 BC, nearly 2 millennia later, another now famous, quote, self appeared in Shakespeare's Hamlet. Quote, "This above all, to thine own self be true," Polonius advised Laertes. But it was one's worldly interests, not the immortal soul, that Polonius had in mind. An earthbound self. So, we start with spirit and understanding of self from Socrates. Then, as Kali Yuga advances, we have an earth, kind of a mental construct. And then, today, the degradation continues as Kali Yuga advances. You article in that key? The downgrade continues today with, for example, Self magazine. Do you have Self magazine in Belgium? No? Okay. Well, the checkout lines, at the supermarket in America, you see all these, gossip sheets, and then you see Self magazine. And the cover of Self, you can just imagine what's on the cover of Self. Some well-toned bodies, right? ladies showing off their body and the men showing off their body. Yeah, that's what I say here. Displaying well-toned bodies as the self. Yet, to think of the body as the self, to forever compete, to satisfy its demands, and then simply to die, is no better than polished animal life. Our human capacity for higher consciousness should tell us something. We have a higher calling. I call this next part of the narrative mixed up. In Vedic times, different classes of human beings were born and raised to cooperate to serve the Supreme. Lacking that spiritual focus, today's social classes often conflict, and today's individuals are too often conflicted. As Prabhupada told the World Health Organization in 1974, such a population is called, quote, Varna Sankara, mixed population, unquote. In a word, mixed up. Small wonder that professions like life coaching and occupational therapy have become so popular. To understand who we are and what our duty is, we moderns, typically unconnected to a culture of self-realization, need help. In a spiritual society, the first help are our parents. So now we start this journey of putting us in a spiritual society, and it starts with parents. I was very happy to find this on Google Images. It's like a mother in ISKCON reading Child Krishna book to her little daughter. Okay, we have to have a lady read this. Okay, where's the mic? There we go.
First helpers, spiritual parents. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18, we should not become a spiritual master, a father, a mother, or a worshipable demigod unless we can deliver our dependents from the path of repeated birth and death.
I forgot to put in there, it also said husband, a father, a husband, a mother. Okay, repeated birth and death, that's qualification to be a guardian of anyone. Lecturing on that verse in Mayapur on February 26, 1976, Srila Prabhupada wryly remarked, you know that word wryly, it means dry wit. So Prabhupada wryly remarked, quote, that is the real contraceptive method. That we are married, undoubtedly, husband and wife, but unless we are competent to give protection, we should not beget children. By contrast, modern groups like the International Planned Parenthood Federation are committed to providing, quote, services like contraception and abortion. Quote, this is Kali Yuga, Prabhupada would observe. I threw this in because I personally saw Prabhupada say this in Pittsburgh, 1972. And Prabhupada started talking about the evils of Kali Yuga. And I was sitting, this is where Prabhupada's sitting, and I was sitting over there. So I was getting a profile shot of Prabhupada. And so he said, this is Kali Yuga. And he just stuck out his hand like somebody with a knife who was going to perform an abortion. And Prabhupada said, even in the womb, they are coming after you with knife. And he started twisting his head like this, even in the womb. And as he said that, his eyes were bugging out, and I could see from the side his eyeballs bugging out of his sockets. Indeed, embracing a dark future, materialists kill the human opportunity to escape the nightmare of repeated birth and death. In a lecture to a disciple who was a young mother, Prabhupada underscored, in a letter to a disciple who was a young mother, Prabhupada underscored the responsibility that comes with that opportunity. So, my god sister Arundhati, who was Prajumna's wife. Prajumna was the Sanskrit editor, and Arundhati was the typist. And so they had a son. So Arundhati, by Prajumna, had Aniruddha, natural name for their son. He's about 1.5 years, and Arundhati was living in Miami. And I was 72, so we were catching on to book distribution by then. And she also loved to do deity worship. So she wrote Prabhupada a letter, and she said, my son is still very small, but would it be all right? I would like to increase my deity worship. And could I give Aniruddha to some friends to watch him while I increase my deity worship? And so Prabhupada was just so surprised that she asked the question. And she said, Prabhupada said, for you, child worship is your deity worship. And then he said this, quote, these children are given to us by Krishna. They are Vaishnavas. Prabhupada's making a point of coming from the Vaishnava background. That's why they took birth in the Vaishnava family. And we must be very careful to protect them. These are not ordinary children. They are Vaikuntha children. That's where the phrase comes from, this letter. Rumila is coming here Friday. She's wrote the book Vaikuntha Children, How to Homeschool Your Children Krishna Conscious Way. They are Vaikuntha children, and we are very fortunate we can give them a chance to advance further in Krishna consciousness. That is a very great responsibility. Your duty is very clear. And then, to underscore the whole point at the end, Prabhupada said, and if you find you cannot take care of your little son adequately, then you send him to me, and I will take care of him. So Arundhati was like, okay, I get it, Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So, next part I call spiritual teachers. Spiritually minded parents naturally want their children educated by spiritually minded teachers. Such a partnership helps children grow up to be all they can be in devotional service. But knowing what's best for a child takes time and perseverance, even for great teachers, knowing how to educate the child, because children are different. Even for great teachers, consider Dhruva Maharaj's talks with the great teacher, Narada Muni. Ooh. Oh, I should have let you read that. And so, there it is. Your duty is very clear. Okay. Yeah. So, early ISKCON painting, fourth canto, there's Narada and Dhruva. Dhruva's been insulted by Suruchi. And furious, he goes to his mother Suniti, and Suniti says, well, it's true what Suruchi said. I'm not the favorite queen. I can't help you, but only God can help you. And the sages say they find God in the forest. So, from saints to serpents, Sage Narada engages all kinds of embodied beings in devotional service. It's quite a range. Narada Muni is like a super guru. He has such a range. He can instruct even snakes and saints. Sage Narada engages all kinds of embodied beings in devotional service. Yet few have been as precocious as 5-year-old Prince Dhruva. Forbidden by a spiteful stepmother to sit on the lap of his father, King Uttanapad, Dhruva angrily approached his natural mother for help to avenge the insult. Convinced that no one but the Supreme Lord could pacify her son, Dhruva's mother inspired the boy to seek God in the forest. Meeting Dhruva in the wilderness, Narada advised him to go back to his mother and return when he was grown up. In the meantime, Dhruva should live undisturbed and satisfied with his lot as ordained by providence. Sage advice, acknowledged Dhruva, but because, quote, I am covered by ignorance, this kind of philosophy does not touch my heart. This might be very nice advice for a well-behaved, submissive Brahmin boy. I'm not a Brahmin. I'm a Acharya, and I've been insulted. My blood is boiling. So whatever it takes to see the Supreme Lord, my dear Radha Muni, bring it on. I'm ready. This is the mood of Dhruva. I mean, that was my, dramatization of it, but that's, listen to what Prabhupada says in the purport here. That was Bhagavatam 4.8.36. And this is one of the few times, I think I've only seen it one other time, where Prabhupada uses the word spirit to refer not to the soul, but to one's psychophysical nature. Very interesting. Okay, so, let's keep going over there, the mic.
Dhruva Maharaj indirectly informed the great sage Narada that there are 4 kinds of human spirit: the Brahminical spirit, the Kshatriya spirit, the Vaishya spirit, and the Shudra spirit. Unless a child is trained according to his tendency, there is no possibility of his developing this particular spirit. It was the duty of the spiritual master or teacher to observe the psychological movement of a particular boy and thus train him in a particular occupational duty. Bhagavatam 4.8.36.
As we saw in the last lesson, the longer Srila Prabhupada expanded the Hare Krishna movement, the more he took a varnashram approach to engaging his followers in devotional service. Whereas surrender to Krishna in ISKCON's early days often meant sacrificing one's natural propensities for the sake of quickly spreading the movement, to make his mission sustainable over time, Prabhupada later sounded more like that Dhruva purport, highlighting the need to serve according to one's natural work. Okay, so here we go. So this is an example of that from a talk, a lecture in Vrindavan. Yeah. Okay, next.
The spiritual master will say that you work like this, that's natural, just like in the school. Well, if somebody is being trained up as a scientist, somebody is trained up as an engineer, as a medical man, as a lawyer, according to the tendency, practical psychology of the students. He is advised that you take this line. So by the instruction of the Guru, the real purpose of Krishna consciousness, and according to his guna, quality and karma work, is engaged in a particular occupational duty, Waar heb ik dan lecture gedaan? 29 September 1976.
Since spiritual teachers play such a crucial role in helping us find our mission in Srila Prabhupada's mission, how did Prabhupada advise us to select them? So actually, this is an audio. I forgot to. We need an audio cord. Will it reach? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So this audio. Whoops. Sorry. There's Prabhupada. He's actually walking in he's chanting japa in his rooms in Los Angeles, in Dwarka. But the audio is from Miami. I was there. And it's very interesting. It's a little hard to hear because there's a plane flying over to land in Miami International Airport. But the words are there too. You can make it out. So, this was in February 75. Here we go.
That nobody should accept blindly any guru, and nobody should blindly accept any disciple. They want to behave one another, at least for 1 year. This is the instruction by Prabhupada Purusan in the way of Buddha.
So here's another one of those. Remember we did the absolute ascensions, and I asked you what word Prabhupada edited, and he changed moved to removed. So there's one word in this audio that you might wonder about, and what does Prabhupada mean by the word? It's not exactly the word. It should be there, but Prabhupada meant something by it. Does anybody know?
Behave?
Yeah, behave. So what did Prabhupada mean by behave? They must behave one another.
Observe.
Yeah, observe, examine, check each other out. Just because you have a bona fide spiritual master and a bona fide candidate for initiation, are these two people going to work as guru disciple? It requires some, I call it transcendental chemistry. They must behave one another. This is the instruction. Okay, so even before the mutual examination begins, it is essential. Okay, this is before. This is why even before people take the disciples course, they should take a founder Acharya course. I was very happy to see that when I went to Melbourne for the second time in 2019, because I went there in 2013. And when I got back there in 2019, I was happy to see that they had made from this seminar series a founder Acharya course. You know, the handbook and assessments and exercises, and they required, I think it's still in effect in Australia, they required everybody and every candidate for initiation to first take this. First ground everybody in the founder Acharya, and then you can start looking for Diksha Gurus. Okay. So even before the mutual examination begins, it is essential for senior devotees to ground a newcomer in our founder Acharya's life teachings, mood, and mission. When Prabhupada was traveling as the movement's sole initiator, he depended on his local leaders to train and test would-be initiates. In ISKCON's multiple guru culture today, only a trained aspirant will be able to approach initiation with a level head. Too often, by the time people take the disciples course, they've already selected their guru. It shouldn't be like that. It should be that you're grounded thoroughly in your foundation, your core identity and foundational relationship with the founder Acharya. And then you start thinking, so who can help me, who's going to bring me closer to Srila Prabhupada, who's going to enrich, enhance, and deepen my relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Quote, who will best guide and engage me in Srila Prabhupada's mission? Initiation, of course, is only the beginning. The road to finding our ultimate calling, our mission in his mission, inevitably passes through crossroads of purification and consultation. When I was teaching at the Mayapur Institute in Mayapur, we noticed that people who had made the commitment to come to Mayapur, I'm sure it's this way in Vrindavan too, for months, for several months, taking time out to take these courses. The reason they came, the main reason, is because, this is from informally speaking with the students, is they had reached a point in their spiritual life where they were really ready for, some transformation. They wanted something more. They wanted some new direction. And they had been feeling stagnant in their spiritual life, and they really wanted an experience studying Shastra in the Dham, in the association of devotees. And so that was really striking. It wasn't, of course, they were interested it was kind of intellectual interest too, in the Shastra, to take courses and not just read on your own, but have courses. But they really wanted a life change. Yeah, so it was up to us to be part of that, to help them. Not just teach them, but to be personally involved, sort of like counselors, academic or spiritual counselors. Okay. So inevitably, our lives, to find our mission, our lives inevitably pass through crossroads. So that was a crossroad for them to come to the Holy Land and do that. Crossroads of purification and consultation. So I put this image up there from Google Images, it's a waterfall, so it's like, how water always seeks its own level. So finding our mission, and his mission is all about seeking our true calling, our true contribution to Prabhupada's mission. In his Sri Krishna Samhita, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur observes that before settling our varna, our occupational duty, we must purify our nature. Reflecting on the Thakur's observation, His Holiness Shivaram Swami points out in his Varnashram Compendium. You ever seen this? Is it ALS? Volume 1, Chapter 30, quote, determining one's varna, that by seriously and sincerely following the devotional life Srila Prabhupada has given us, we can purify our nature in 3 ways. So this is Maharaj's observation. 3 ways we can purify our nature. Is that the mic? You want to read? Okay, here it comes. There you go, read that. Finding our mission.
Finding our mission requires purification by the rites of passage.
Rites of passage.
Sorry.
Is that in Dutch? Rits? Is that how you say it? Yeah. Okay. Rites of passage. And here's what Maharaj said about that. Qualifying oneself, for example, to receive first and second initiation, and committing oneself to the path of celibacy or responsible married life. That's no small thing. It took me, I lasted about 11 years as a brahmachari. You can just imagine what it was like trying to be a brahmachari in the 70s, or any time, I guess, but fresh from the counterculture. And then last year, all of a sudden, I guess my stars, everything changed psychologically for me. And all of a sudden I knew something was up, you know. So I took shelter of a senior devotee and I said, because he said to me, Suresvara, glad to see you in Gitanagari. I had just come to Gitanagari. And he said, could you help me compile the Gurukula handbook? There's an old book called the Gurukula handbook. And so I said, yeah, I can help you do that, but can we have an exchange here? Can you help me, after I help you do that this summer, it was a summer kind of engagement, could you tell me where to live, what ashram I should be in, and what my service should be? Because at this point in my life, Maharaj, I don't trust my own mind. I trust you more than I trust my own mind, you know. I said, sure. And then, so I helped him compile the handbook, and finally at the end he said, okay, Suresvara, after observing you, I think you should stay here in Gitanagari. There's a lot of senior householders. You should get married and help Borijan with the Gurukula. I said, okay, thank you. Nothing worse than not knowing what you're doing, right? It's just not, you're totally on the mental plane. So that was very helpful. That was a rite of passage. Okay, so rites of passage, the next one. Keep reading.
By education and training.
Education and training. Immersing oneself in and allowing oneself to be transformed by systematic scriptural study, such as a Bhakti Shastra degree program, and readily accepting counselor supervision. Yeah, we need to be humble enough to take advice from senior devotees. And one more.
By devotional practices.
Regularly participating in Prabhupada's full morning program, either at a temple or in one's home. Prabhupada's morning program includes the 5 most purifying devotional practices given in the Nectar of Devotion. Those Panchanga Bhakti limbs, anybody know? Not the first 5, but the most, those practices which provide the most essential nutrients for one's spiritual diet. You know what they are?
Reciting the holy place,
Yeah,
reading Bhagavatam,
yeah,
association devotees,
yeah,
chanting Hare Krsna,
right.
Deity worship.
Yes, good, yeah. Now, according to our situation, we may not be able to go to the full morning program, but we can, do the best we can at home. Say we're supporting a family. Does that sound familiar? And we have to run the race. We got a family support, so we have to work. And sometimes we can't work with devotees. Sometimes we have to go away to work, whatever. But at least we can, as much as possible, include those essential nutrients. We can make our home a holy place with sacred sounds, sacred images. Did I mention in Bhagavad Gita? I forget now. Okay, in Prabhupada's purport to Gita, chapter 13, texts 8 through 12. Those essential items of knowledge. Viviktadesha se vidvam maratir janasam siddhi. Detachment from children, wife, home, and the rest. That's an item of knowledge. Detachment. It's not like, Vedic culture is not like in the West where they say, do you say this here in Europe, like we say in America, to have and to hold till death do us part. You say that? Yeah. No, come on. No, it's a stage of life, Grihastha ashram. It's not like forever and ever until death do us part. That's a formula for coming back to the material world. Right? So, so in the purport to that verse, detachment from children, wife, home, and the rest, that Prabhupada, he just starts talking about how to make your home Krishna conscious. And he mentions those items. You can, so that together with the family, you can worship the deity and chant Hare Krishna, study this Shastra, and this, take prasad together, he said. And he said, so if you can do this, then there's no need to change from household to renounced, because you're Krishna conscious. You're helping each other. But then Prabhupada turns, he pivots. But if they're not favorable, if they're, I forget how he puts it, it's like they're a threat. Prabhupada speaking from his own experience. Then they should be, he uses the A word, abandoned. That's exactly what Prabhupada did after 36 years in the Grihastha ashram, 1918 to 1954. When Radhadesh thought that Papa was kidding in his ultimatum, tea or me? Well, I'll have to choose the tea then. Prabhupada turned on his heels, walked out. Never saw him again. Okay, but how do we get into that? Yeah. Okay. So those 5 essential things. So Prabhupada's so brilliant that he gave us in the morning program, he just gave us these whole things just every day. He gave us a full meal of those essential nutrients. Along with purifying our nature, to discover our mission and Srila Prabhupada's mission, we need to consult with senior devotees who know us well. There's that famous African saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So if it takes a village to raise a child, guess what? It takes a community of devotees to raise a sadhaka, a committed, lifelong devotee. Consultation. Okay, who's going to read? Yeah. No, the next. Take turns.
Finding our mission requires consultation.
Yes. In his conclusion to Sri Krishna Samhita, Srila Bhaktivinoda mentions different kinds of consultation required to settle our varna, our vocation, our calling in life. Here we go.
With trusted seniors who knows us well.
In Srila Bhaktivinoda's time, family elders, the family priest, and village leaders all helped to identify the qualities that dominated an individual's nature, as well as one's attraction to a particular work. Applied to Srila Prabhupada's mission, we need to ascertain the direction of our service with the help of trusted senior devotees who have known and observed us over time. I hear when Urmila Prabhu is coming, she's going to do assessments on department managers. Yeah, is that true? Like vocational assessments to make sure all the round holes are being fit with round pegs. And so she doesn't know you well because she's just come in, but she's going to give tools, perhaps, to help everybody make their best contribution to the mission. Career Dharma. I gotta get that book. The BLS. All right. revolutionize this lesson. I read that book to make it more up to date. Okay, so trusted seniors who know us well. Next one.
As qualified seers of our past, present, and near future.
This is very mystical, huh? See what Bhaktivinoda says. Here's what he meant. By seers, Srila Bhaktivinoda means qualified Vaishnava astrologers, believe it or not, who can help guide us to the supreme destination. In his purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.5, Srila Prabhupada states, quote, "It is the duty of a father to understand the astrological position of his children and do what is needed for their happiness." Also in his Gitanagari essay in the 40s, Prabhupada said that we will educate the children in our Gitanagari by birth horoscope and natural tendency. Well, it takes some doing to ascertain that. When a qualified Vaishnava astrologer confirms in our stars what our seniors observe about us on the ground, that helps us to confidently settle our occupational duty, our varna, our mission in the mission. And here's another one.
As teachers at Varnashram College.
Yeah. We need that, again, Varnashram College, because Varnashram culture has been lost, so we need retraining. Here's another quote from those Varnashram walks. Let's see, did I? Yeah, here we go. Read that, please.
Everywhere, wherever we have got our center, a Varnashram College should be established to train for the visions: one class Brahmana, one class Kshatriya, one class Vaishya, and one class Shudra, but everyone will be elevated to the spiritual platform by the spiritual activities we have prescribed.
So it's not mundane Varnashram, it's not materialistic Varnashram. It's training us in our best contribution for devotional service, so that we can use those activities. As Krishna says in the Gita, he says, "Now hear how by following one's qualities of work, one can become perfect." Last chapter, 1845, and then 46 says, "By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings, and he was all pervading everyone." How does it go? I forget the last. Everyone can become perfect. Nothing like that. Yeah. So the very tendencies toward trying to enjoy this material world that we brought into this life, those very activities which bound us before, now they can liberate us if we use them in Krishna's service. Yeah, whatever we like to do. By doing the duties of our varna as devotional service, while following the instructions of our spiritual masters, we transcend our conditioning in stages or ashrams, and ultimately go back to Godhead. And then I've added this. This is the last slide. Let's see here. Okay, not quite yet. Then I say, because hearing all this, spiritual parents, spiritual teachers, spiritual masters, I don't know about you, but I didn't have this kind of foundation as a child. I mean, some of you may have, because we have second and third generation devotees now. But yeah, I was by the time I became a devotee, I was ruined, right, by Vedic standards. So anyway, this is for myself then. And even if we haven't had the benefit of growing up and living in a Varnashram culture, to find our mission in Srila Prabhupada's mission, we can always ask ourselves a few challenging questions. Now, I took this from the self-help gurus that traverse the earth, telling everybody that you can do it, you can enjoy this material world. They write books, and they're popular on the lecture circuit, and they've got videos, and you can enjoy, right? And they call it, you gotta find your passion. That's what they say. There's a clue right in there what they're up to, right? Find your passion. But we all do have passions, but we have to purify the passion in devotional service. So we can ask ourselves a few challenging, even if we're handicapped by having grown up in the Asura Kula and then the Asura family and this, everything. Okay, so here it is. So there's a thoughtful man, a thoughtful lady. They're wondering, Here's the challenging questions. Okay, who's going to read? All right.
If I had all the money I needed, what would I do?
Right. I don't know about how it is in Europe, but most people in America, they've done scrupulous surveys. Most people don't like their work. Is it like that in Europe? They just do it to make the money. They never, it's just a job,
Yeah.
So, but what if you had all the money you needed? What if you didn't have that excuse? Oh, I'd love to do that for Boo, yeah, but I just gotta pay the bills. I mean, if you're lucky, if you like what you do to pay the bills. Henry Ambarish told me this. Well, Ambarish didn't tell me this, but Henry Ford was famous for saying this. Find something you love to do, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Because it's a labor of love. It's not simply hard-bidden, labor. So what if you had all the money you needed? What would I do? What if I couldn't give that excuse? It's kind of ironic that sometimes we don't do what we love because we're afraid of failing at it. My passion is writing, and I don't do it enough because I'm afraid that I'm going to fail at it. And I'm going to fail at what I love to do. That means I'm a failure as a lover. I love it, but I fail at it, so it's kind of weird. Okay, here's another one. Read this.
If I had all the time I needed, what would I do?
So it's either time or money, right? I had no time to go back to school to do that passion, What if you had all the time you need? What if the kids are grown, you're retired? Or what if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth? You didn't have to go to work. Like, what Ambarish told me? Speaking of Ambarish, he said, he has this thick Midwest accent, Suresvara. If I have to come back to this material world, I don't want to be rich again. It's like, he's got what everybody's chasing, the almighty dollar. He's got it. Look what he's doing in Mayapur. Look what he spent $10 million in the BBT National to make Prabhupada's Pushpa Samadhi. My favorite place to chant japa in Mayapur. And look what he put $27 million in, I think, as seed money for the TLEP. He continues to match donations. So why did he say that? Why did he say, I don't want to come back rich? Yes.
He was so bored, he told it here, that he was so bored that he would go out and he would throw stones at people's windows.
Wow, he didn't tell me, he told me something else. That's interesting. I guess there's many reasons he doesn't want to come back with a silver spoon in his mouth. He said, because when you have so much money, you don't know who your friends are. Everybody's trying to befriend you, but you don't know why they want money. You know, it's like it's all a business deal. You know, yeah. Just like Shamsundar told a story about George, you know, when Shamsundar had to pop the question to George that Srila Prabhupada would like you to pay for the Krishna talk. And then George immediately, his face became sour. Oh no, another one. You know, because he was a successful beetle. But then what happened? You remember what happened?
Yeah.
The lightning struck. David Wynn's house, you know, David Wynn was a sculptor laureate in England. He had, you know, made busts of the Queen yeah, it's a lightning struck the house. The lights go out and they're all cowering under the dinner table, you know. And because Shamsundar, he told Prabhupada, I don't want to ask him that, Prabhupada, you know, but that's why we're such friends, because I don't ask him for anything, and it's very refreshing for him, you know, just to have a friend, and he's perfect time, he wants Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, no, Krishna will help you. One of those Prabhupada miracles, you know, Krishna will help you. And so the lights come back on, and George has got this big smile on his face. Well, what can I say? After that, you know. Okay, I get it, Krishna. You better, you know, how much is it? $19,000. Okay, I'll write a check. Okay, that was in 1970. I gave like 10 times that much today. Worth. Okay. If I had all the time I needed, what would I do? Now here's one you can really challenge yourself with. And the more specific you can be, then the more of a clue you'll have. If you don't already know, I mean, okay, here it is.
To what specific service am I most drawn and forget time doing it?
And of course, if your passion is, you know, dressing the deities, you better keep your eye on the clock too, right? So that has limited applications, but you know what I mean. It's so you're in the zone. It's like you're one with the Lord. You know, it's like Bhishma was merging with the super soul on the bed of arrows, not impersonally, but he was merging in interests with his mother. And he passed away, and everyone became silent, like birds at the end of the day. Such a dramatic. Okay, so when you ask yourself this, just think, the more specific you can be. So you can't just say preaching. You've got to get more specific than that, because everything is preaching. If the pujaari is decorating the deity and offering arti in a way that's going to inspire the guests, that's preaching. It's all about bringing people to the deity, to Krishna. Yeah. Okay, so we have half an hour for Q&A, but think about that. And maybe Urmila will ask you about that too. All right, conclusion. The answer to any of the above questions may give us a hint of our ultimate calling in Srila Prabhupada's mission. Here we go. So, have all the ladies read? Yeah, I guess they have. Okay, so we're going to have Prabhu.
Let's be all we can be in our founder Acharya's mission.
Yes. So, absorbing ourselves in the life, teachings, mood, and mission of our beloved founder Acharya, with the intent to cooperatively serve, is the perfect foundation for making our best contribution to Srila Prabhupada's movement. as singular and selfless as his own life was, Prabhupada would be happy simply to see everyone do what they like to do for Krishna. That's what Prabhupada would often ask guests. So, who are you? What do you do? What do you like? Well, you could do that for Krishna. Okay, so let's read this. This is a famous purport. I think it's, anyway, it's at the end.
It does not matter what one is. One must dedicate everything in the service of the Lord. If one is a learned scholar, scientist, philosopher, poet, etc., then he should employ his learning to establish the supremacy of the Lord. Similarly, if one is a businessman, an industrialist, an agriculturist, etc., then one should spend his hard-earned money for the cause of the Lord. One should try to engage in the service of the Lord. Everything for which one has specific attraction, and that is the way of peace and prosperity, and that is the remedial measure for all the miseries of material existence.
He just wanted to see everybody happy. Okay, here we go with. Probably want to read the learning outcomes.
Lesson 7. Finding our mission in His mission. Learning outcomes. By now we should be able to recall why Srila Prabhupada appreciated Socrates. Identify the greatest responsibility of parents toward their children. Explain the importance of training children according to their particular spirit. Identify the mutual responsibility of the prospective guru and aspiring disciple. Identify 3 ways we can purify our nature to help settle our varna. Identify 3 people we should consult to help settle our varna. Describe the perfect foundation for making our best contribution to Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna movement.
Okay. Questions, comments? Yes? Prabhu?
Why do you think Prabhupada called those children Vaikuntha children?
Yeah, sometimes parents would ask the same question. Did you hear what your Ray of Vishnu just said this morning? Ah! No. I thought these were kids dropping in from the higher regions. And now he's swearing like a sailor. What's going on? Well, were you here yeah, you were here. Vaikuntha children, because Prabhupada is making the point that they've come into this world, they've been devotees, and now they want to complete the course, and you're the first, you're their guardian. And so you have to be you have to know. Let's look at the letter again. Yeah, very careful to protect them. These are not our children. We're very fortunate. We can give them a chance to advance further in Krishna consciousness. That's a very great responsibility. So don't spoil them. Don't teach them to go to life as sense gratification. Be kind, but be very clear. And the best way to I'm speaking from my own experience now. I'm just thinking about my dear daughter Radhika, who's now, she's going to be 34 next month. Yeah. So the best thing we can do for our own children is to set a good example. You know, too often parents want their children to be pure devotees, but they're not following themselves. And that doesn't work. That's called hypocrisy, and the kids can smell that a mile away. So, I don't know what else to say. Is that okay? Yeah. Vaikuntha children. Yeah, they're spiritually minded children. Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. So they're not just imports. Remember I made a joke, imports from the lower regions born out of a bottle of beer on Saturday night. No, not like that. Okay, let's see, anybody else? All right, we'll give the ladies a chance. There's a mic.
Thank you, Prabhu. Well, Srila Prabhupada also emphasized the natural contraceptive method. He said one should not become the spiritual master or a parent or husband or wife or mother, and when one cannot bring the dependence to Krishna. You know? So that is for me something that is very hard to understand, because there's this different necessities of the body, you know, and when the devotees at least want to regulate it by marrying, you know, I mean, maybe they're still not there to become the gurus, you know, and also similar for me, sometimes I am asked to give the class, you know.
Or what?
I'm giving the class a lecture, but I don't feel qualified at all. Like, completely not. I can just repeat, like the parent which the Prabhupada is speaking, but actually the proper would be to recite the Srimad Bhagavatam according to what I realize, in order for everyone to get the full benefit.
Definitely.
So can you kindly elucidate that tenet?
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, Tulsi Priya, is that, you know, when Prabhupada made that comment, is it in the, no, it's in the script, that he wryly observed. So Prabhupada knows. You can take anything. You can take, okay, so we made those promises, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no eating, no gambling. So Prabhupada would define illicit sex differently in different contexts. Sometimes he would just say, so if you want to enjoy, then you have to get yourself married, and you have to take responsibility for it. You know, you have to support the family. So he would sometimes just say no sex outside of marriage. But then when you get down to it, if you really drill deeper, then ultimately it's just what Prabhupada rightly observed, because he knows people coming from, especially Lecce Yoga backgrounds, aren't necessarily going to be able to do that right away. Here's an anecdote I just heard on a memory series from Narayani Mataji. Okay, our exalted God sister. So she was, I guess in effect, I don't know if she was officially, but in effect, the head pujari in Calcutta. And she was training, you know, Bengali brahmacharis how to worship the deity in Calcutta. So anyway, she, it wasn't her, but she said, a god sister of mine, let's see, let me set this up right. Oh yeah, the lady who ordinarily, and Prabhupada was there in Calcutta at the time, the lady who ordinarily offered Mangalarti didn't come one morning, or she came late, something like that, came later. And so, so Prabhupada noted that she didn't perform her duty of offering Mangalarti. So, so Prabhupada approached her and said, "Oh, you didn't offer Mangalarti, isn't that your duty?" And so the god sister said, "Well, Srila Prabhupada," she kind of looked down, she said, "My husband and I were intimate last night, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't if that happened, non-procreation sex, then that's all the more reason why you have to worship the deity. Yeah. So Prabhupada knows that it's a journey, it takes time. But in the name of taking time, we should postpone it forever and just enjoy ourselves materially and never get there. So there's liberal and strict definitions of practically everything that you find in Prabhupada's books. So we have to start where we are, as we were speaking yesterday, and then we have to find the ways and means to get the higher taste to improve that offering to Krishna, so that we come to the right point. And just that sincere endeavor is pleasing to Krishna. That we're actually being serious and sincere. And we might take a step forward and then take 2 steps back, but we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop because I'm too full and Prabhupada shut that down. You're not the most of anything. You're not the most full and you're not the most of anything, That's another way of trying to get profit, adoration, and distinction. If I can't be the most exalted devotee, I'll be the most fallen. No, you're not the most of anything. Come on. Cut it out. So, anyway, Uncle Suresvara is speaking from experience. You can try again. I'm going to die trying to fulfill those initiation vows. Yeah, in the perfect way, in the best way. And I better get more serious and sincere because I'm running out of time, folks. I'm an endangered species. Prabhupada initiates are dropping like flies. Origen called this decade the decade of tears. Everybody's passing away, Yeah. When Prabhupada said that, this is the real contraceptive. Yeah, when we're advanced enough to find intimacy in other ways, to find intimacy, just like in the third canto. What does it say? That the men and the women in Vaikuntha are very attractive, but there's no sex desire because they're so thrilled, to help each other serve Krishna. They're riding together in the same Vaikuntha airplanes, and they're touching each other's body. But there's no. Or in Krishna book too. What was that thing when they were throwing substances on each other? And yogurt butter, and it was a big party. It was a big, but Krishna is the center of it, so that's that elusive higher taste that we're always hearing about, that we get glimpses of, and when we chant our japa, or we're in the zone, the mission, we've found our contribution in Krishna's place, and He gives us a taste. So the more we do that, the more Krishna gives us more of a taste. Sometimes Krishna just does it just without any qualifications. It's called Kripa Siddha, or Kripa 1972. Am I spoiling something here? Let's see. No, we already did that New Vrindavan thing. So, when Prabhupada, you saw those pictures in the first lesson that Prabhupada's on the Vyasasana, the crimson throne-like dais. And so before Prabhupada came, we were just up at that pavilion waiting for him to come. And he came, towards noon. Finally he came as the sun burned away the mist. And we were waiting for him, and Vishwajan Maharaj was leading the kirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare. He sang like a deva. Right? It was just, we were in Swarga. You know, we were in heaven just following him. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. And then, you know, Radha which were his deities, he was traveling in the bus, were on the stage. So he's singing to Radha Damodar. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So Prabhupada comes, and he gets out of Hare Krishna's Volkswagen, and he comes behind the curtains, and he hops up on the dais, and he takes his kartal, and he's just following everybody. He's following Vishnujan Swami's lead, because he loved the way Vishnujan sang. And then, at one point in the kirtan, he stole the lead from Vishnujan. He stole it. We were already in heaven, right? But when Prabhupada stole the lead and he had the mic, all of a sudden we hear ringing out, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, you know. So when Prabhupada stole the lead, we went insane. You can hear this on following Srila Prabhupada's DVD series, Yadavar, when this part came. So I came on, and Satya Ryan came on, and we described what it was like when Prabhupada stole the lead.
Is that a recording? There's a recording of that also.
Yeah. I don't think, no. The recording of Prabhupada's talk was there, but I don't recall, unless there was.
I definitely have a recording. Why was it that time where Vishnu
When he stole the lead?
and Prabhupada?
Okay, good. Yeah, well, so there's an audio, but you didn't see it. Here's what happened visually. As soon as Prabhupada stole the lead, we all got up and we just started moving toward Prabhupada like iron filings, to a magnet. And we were being, it was like Radha Damodar and Prabhupada were just flooding the place with Krishna praying. And we didn't know what it is. We weren't qualified. We were just recovering hippies. And so we got up and we just started moving toward Prabhupada. In this trance, we went insane. We were it's just like you read about descriptions of the Mahaprabhu becoming like a madman, when he's chanting. It was like, we got a little taste of that, a little taste of, it was just a little taste. And then finally, when we didn't know who we were anymore, or where we were, or anything, we hear, and Prabhupada's doing the Prema Bunny, and we just dropped to the grass, swooning. We didn't know what it is. It was just insane. So sometimes when you hear people give their Prabhupada memories, you hear stories like that, where Prabhupada just sort of parts the curtain, and everybody's just, they don't know where they are. Because Prabhupada is just giving a little mercy, a lot of mercy. I like it again. Oh, the higher taste. Anyway, Hare Krishna. 9:05. So I'm just wondering if Tulsi Priya was okay with that, is it? We're going to get there, Tulsi Priya. Yes.
I want to appreciate the way you addressed the foregrounds yesterday evening. The devotees having problems and falling down. You addressed it in such a compassionate way, I found. Not judgmental at all.
Probably because I've done the same thing.
Yeah, and it's actually so much more balanced way to look at it. Because you were mentioning that they were stretched so for such a long time, doing so much service. And maybe not in the right position.
Yeah.
So I was appreciating that.
Well,
It's the first time I hear it like this. We always kind of just say, "Oh yeah, fall down," which actually Usually that means you're the next on the list, right? If we judge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's judge not lest he be judged. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. Yeah. So, yeah, I remember when the sannyasi fell, and then in 76, and then people were gossiping about it. Prabhupada got furious when he heard the gossip. Because of what you're saying about him, you're making it impossible for him to come back. He's too ashamed. And it was right. See, I was indexing the Bhagavatam in LA, and it was this heady purport where Prabhupada wrote about a sannyasi who gives up sannyas is like somebody eating his own vomit. It's like when you take sannyas, you just give up material life, but then when you fall from sannyas, it's like eating what you've already vomited. And the word is vantashi. That's how the seventh canto ended. And then the 8th canto, the Gajendra pastime came. With Gajendra, out of his element, the elephant's out of his element in the water, fighting a crocodile. After 1,000 celestial years, an elephant can stomp a crocodile, but if he's out of his element, he's going to get tired. Gajendra was getting tired. And so it was only because of his previous devotional service that he remembered, Bhagavate Vasa, and he was saved. So then Prabhupada takes the opportunity of the Gajendra Leela to then talk about how, Gajendra was getting weak because he was out of his element. He was in the water. And that was the crocodile's element. So Prabhupada says, so if one finds that he is out of his element in the renounced order, this is like, first was the thunderbolt and here's the rose. Prabhupada's handing the rose. Then go to the Grihastha ashram. He's trying to counteract the shaming, that had happened. Prabhupada would weave in his current events, externally or subtly, implicitly into his purport sometimes. And live responsibly as a grihastha. And then finally, then the next year, Prabhupada is in Vrindavan, and he's incapacitated. And then this sannyasi, now a grihastha, came to Vrindavan to see Prabhupada. And he's come back to devotees, and he's grihastha, and he's doing business, and Prabhupada, as sick as he was so happy to see this sannyasi, now grihastha, because he had done so much service and he was so sincere, but he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the sannyas ashram because he had been given battlefield condition as a sannyasi and did great service. Anyway, so Prabhupada was so happy. So Prabhupada's asking him, so how was your wife and children? Right? Yeah. So we get anything, any devotional quality like compassion from Prabhupada. We just have to be so immersed in Prabhupada's life, teaching, rules, and mission, how he lived the teachings. And there's so much to be absorbed in, so many examples. Okay.
If there's anyone else, otherwise
We have 5 minutes.
because about the astrologers, qualified astrologers,
Good
and
luck with that.
qualified seniors, it's not always easy to rely on them.
Yeah, that's why we need to be the change we want to see. We need to be the people that are giving shelter too. You know, Prabhupada would say different things about astrology. Sometimes he would dismiss it, and sometimes he would say what he said in the purport, and then, so one time in Vrindavan, I forget, let's see, what was the context of this? It was in Prabhupada's last year. He had some energy, but he was obviously ill. So the astrologers, one astrologer said, Srila Prabhupada, if you pass through this crisis, you can live to 100. So Prabhupada said, okay, well let's have some fun. Let's go see the astrologer. Let's have some fun. Let's see what he has to say. Even though Prabhupada's beyond astrology, I mean, it's between him and Krishna, what was going on. It has its applications. I, in my own life, I've consulted astrologers. But what I've found is that what the astrologers do is they confirm, what you actually already know, but you just have to hear it from in another way. Sometimes we just need it confirmed from another angle. Vision. Like in 1987, I wanted to know what I should do. Should I teach or should I write? So Krishna, so I went to Vrindavan for the first VIHE in 1987. Borojan invited me, took some courses, and then it was really enlivening. And then every day I was going before Gauritai and Krishna Balaram and Sri and Radhadesh, and I was praying, my dear Lord, please help me with this direction. Should I teach or should I write? And then every time, without fail, I'd come out of it, I'd go back through the door, and then I'd bump into somebody. Hey, Suresvara, when are you going to write another article for BTG? Or, hey, Suresvara, what are you going to teach? Are you teaching class? It was both. So it was like, they go together, right? Teaching and writing. Like Urmila, she's a great teacher, she's a great writer. So I said, okay, thank you. It's not either or, it's both and. I got it. So that they're both there in my chart. One astrologer said, Suresvara, look at your fingertips. They go up. This is a writing yoga. Okay. So, but I always been like that. As a kid, I was writing my own comic books. I was a Superman comic. I like Superman comics, and I write my own comics. Okay, enough of my karma, not my leela, my karma. So astrology, it can be useful. Prabhupada said we will train the kids in Gita Nagari by birth horoscope and natural tendency. We'll see what the stars say. We'll see what practically on the ground what they like to do. Anything else? Yes. Okay, in 1 minute, Prabhu is going to pose a question that's going to take us 5 hours to answer later on.
Yes, I was just thinking, my observations so far have been that the things that strike me, and kind of similar some of the things that struck me in 2011 when I took the course there. And so, one is that...
Took this course?
Yes.
Yeah. Or this seminar, it's not a course. We're trying to turn it into a course, by the way. Mm-hmm. To do that, what I said before, disciple, we should do this, but we got our strategy.
So, a couple things that strike me is that the Prabhupada's emphasis on Varnashram as we go on and in the seminar, and then the lack of understanding of devotees on this topic, right? Because considering it like controversial, which you addressed with the contextual dates, and then it basically turns for me into like yeah, it's very much a Varnashram seminar. I'm just observing, it's and yeah, I just thought, what are your thoughts on that and the delay? Because why is this so relevant? And because of the fact that, yeah, on one side it's very obvious, like what you said about Prabhupada's destination not being Bhaktivedanta Manor so much as it was to go to Gita Nagari and this is the things he left us to do, yet nobody knows that,
Well, let me just give you a short answer. The reason it's so relevant is because it's just like if we haven't eaten in 50 years. I mean, we need this so badly, and we haven't done it in a systematic way. There's people doing things. Shikala Maharaj, Bhakti Raghava Maharaj, a little bit, in the South Indian way by Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, Urmila Prabhu on the other end, career Dharma in the modern, and she's teaching a course. So it's so much needed because what Prabhupada displayed, like what Bhagavati said when she came in the first day, with a question about, what about, some people say we should just do it the way it was in 1975 and not change anything. Or some people say, no, we got to do everything in 2024 way. We got to throw out everything, and it's extremes. So we have to know. Hey, that's the perfect. Thank you. You gave me the perfect segue into the next lesson. We have to know principles and applications or details, and that's the next lesson. That's the heart of the next lesson today. Is to love, is to cooperate. And to know how to cooperate, we've got to understand what are timeless principles and what are relative adjustable details. And so, yeah, thank you very much. So please come. And it's probably the most challenging lesson because this is Kali Yuga. To cooperate is a big challenge in the age of non-cooperation. It's not the most fun lesson, but it's the most challenging. The most fun is the one after it, fictional Prabhupads. I just get a kick out of it. Okay, please come 5:30. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.